Już są najnowsze lalki W.I.T.C.H. Jeszcze bardziej zachwycające. I dla dziewczynki.
Okay, so somebody in one of the witch groups on Facebook, I believe it was the Witch World group, recently requested a closer look at the Fantastic Witch line of dolls. As you probably have found out, a lot of these dolls on the market, well, the eBay market, are missing clothes, their wings, their shoes, so some people have wanted to make the clothes themselves and the wings. So let's get a closer look at each girl. Now there is a line of dolls that looks very similar to the Fantastic Witch dolls. However, those dolls have a light on their bellies because it was supposed to light up when there was a toy Heart of Candy car that was supposed to get near, but I'm not really into the arc reactor look, so I prefer the Fantastic Witch ones. Here's what you can expect if you get one of the girls in box, which is actually very hard to achieve when somebody's trying to sell it for like $300. Surprisingly, I think when I got this one, it was near $40, completely unopened, which is actually good for the Tarani doll because the hair that they chose for her braids very easily gets very limp and out of shape. I've seen a beautiful custom Tarani doll where they replaced those with actual yarn to be a little more authentic. If a doll is new in box, it actually has these beautiful wings that are part of the packaging surrounding it. Here's the back side of the box, and you've got something in a couple different languages. So Tarani's the only one I have in box, and I'm not usually a keep it in box kind of person, but I really don't want to take her out of here. It's just so beautiful of a setup that I'd just rather leave her like that. So Tarani's hair is composed of something called flocking, where it's just glued pieces of fabric to the head. This is also the same kind of material you might see inside a fancy wooden box. And then they've strung hair through. And she has her little cuffs. Here is a better look at the Fantastic Cornelia doll. Something important about the Fantastic Witch dolls, or any of the, I believe any of the Guardian dolls, mostly probably just Fantastic Witch, is that their hair also has some shiny tinsel also rooted in there to give more of a sparkle, magical sheen, and also their lips have some glitter on them. So this necklace did not come with this Cornelia doll. This is one I actually bought off of eBay that I mentioned in my Halloween video. I have one for myself and I have one for Cornelia. This is a relic that is going to appear in Arc 4, so that is coming up soon. Here's an example of the boot version of the Witch Girl shoes. They got a little bit lazy and didn't make their shoes exactly like they are in the comic, which I guess I understand. They just gave Cornelia and Will the same boot design. This boot is very close to Will's actual design. Cornelia's is just a little bit different, but just so you know, the dolls have the same boot. And the height of the boot is nearly 11 centimeters, maybe more like 10.5 centimeters tall. They have this split down the back so that it's easier to get onto the doll. Now, I believe most of the space in here is empty because their feet are actually a lot smaller than the boot. So, but this actually kind of helps to keep them stabilized and standing, but their feet are definitely smaller than the boot. I'm not sure how you would achieve making one of your own boots. That might be a whole thing with like silicone molding and everything. I'm not too familiar with that. Length of the foot is about 5 centimeters. Their actual foot is, you know, barely 2 centimeters. I don't recommend ever taking the tights off of the doll. If you've got the tights on the doll, keep it, because they are very hard to get back on. So here is Cornelia's skirt. It seems like they've decided to almost make a mini skirt that's a little more structured to her. As you notice, there's a seam on the back here. This is to probably cinch it in so that it hugs her waist. And then it kind of just falls. The rest of it is just, you know, fabric with a split in it. The inside of the skirts is this, I'm not too familiar with actual fabric types, but there's definitely a different texture to the outside compared to the inside. The outside of the fabric, it's not soft because it's got all this glitter put onto it. And of course, they've got her signature belly button swirl. Now, I actually personally cut the slit a little bit bigger on here because when I did get this doll, this seam really wasn't so noticeable and it looked like Cornelia had a solid skirt, and I know she's got that cut there. So I really wanted that to show. So I did cut that a little bigger. That's why that has that rough edge there. I didn't use really good scissors for that. And the skirt is 20 centimeters. And they affix it with Velcro. Cornelia's shirt also follows the same type of fabric as the skirt. It has like this nylon type inside with the sparkly outer fabric. And you can actually see evidence of the wings here, because the wings originally also attached to Velcro, so the shirt would also have a piece of Velcro on the back, and this is actually the Velcro from the wings that fell off. They do have her top cut across the shoulders here, and the length of that goes about 3 centimeters. There's 2 seams across her chest to make the shirt a little more skin tight and follow her form. So they've kind of pinched the fabric here and here to kind of draw it into this hourglass shape. And the length of her sleeve, between 9 to 10 centimeters it looks like. They do have it taper into a point at her hands. Okay, Irma. One of the toughest guardians to find, and also one of the toughest guardian's hair to maintain. So Irma almost has these puffy shoulder pad things going on with her shirt. The basic build for Irma and Tarani's shirt is very similar. It's just that Tarani's has that U cut, again with seams there at the chest. Irma's shirt also has a double seam here, but again there's also her unique mushroom shape of her chest shirt. Her sleeves are cut off straight. Her skirt also has a pretty basic design as well. What might help with making these shirts is that there seems to be a seam under the arm to against the chest, and that's how they're getting that shape. So the complete chest piece for Irma's, it goes pretty much up to her neck and is about 4.5 centimeters down. Her sleeve, about 8.5 centimeters down her arm, again because it's not covering her hand like it did for Cornelia. She does have this slit on the side, but that's really as fancy as her skirt gets. And that's about 4.5. They have, you know, tight seams here. 2 back seams as well to kind of make the fabric pretty tight. Velcro, of course. These are the same shoes that Tarani and Haylin also have. Okay, so this is Haylin's Fantastic Witch doll. Now her shirt has a reverse sweetheart neckline, where instead of pointing down like most, it will point up. And she has a cap sleeve that kind of mimics her element's shape with the swirl here. Again, like all the shirts, it has 2 seams here to make it shape better. The easiest shirt to remove and look at, so you can see the seams that they've got here. And here are the inner seams as well. She also came with these ribbons in her hair. If I remember correctly, there is an elastic, and then there was just ribbon wrapped around that to get her comic accurate look. So I also cut this skirt. I feel like it was a little bit too much going outward when it came in. I know Haylin's more cuts in like this, so I did sloppily trim it so that it was a little more accurate. And it comes with these strings kind of sewn in and around. And the length of that skirt is about 10 to 11 inches. It just goes down to her knee. And of course, Haylin has socks instead of tights like the rest of them. Okay, then the one and only Will. This is her fantastic witch look. Her shirt has a high collar, and the sleeves start pretty similar to how Irma's start, except of course Will's are bell sleeves, so that the way that they're stitched makes them kind of flare out at the bottom. It looks like there may be 2 stitches in her arm. So one big piece of fabric here, and then a thinner piece of fabric to make this tiny part of the bell sleeve. And of course her sleeves, in relation to the arm, lengthwise are about almost 13 inches. More like 12 and a half. So for her skirt, there is also the seam here and here. So on most of them, it's where it's making this inner triangle shape. If I had to guess the pattern type, I would say that most of these skirts have the shape of a pencil skirt, is what they call it. So that it gets that like hourglass tight going down shape. So here is an example of the inner seam. This is the one on the side that goes all the way down, and then the one that just tightens it up is here. And once again, you see that the fabric is like this nylon, kind of not like a backpack fabric, but similar raincoaty, waterproof type feeling fabric. And then the outside is kind of like felt, just covered in a lot of glitter for this rough texture. It almost feels like sour candy, I have to say. And then of course the seam here goes all the way down, and then when you tighten the Velcro, it kind of overlaps a little bit so that it falls tightly. Don't forget she has this little heart-shaped part that goes around where her belly button would be. And her length of her skirt is about 4.5 centimeters. 4.5 to 5 centimeters if you're going to craft that yourself. Alright, and then here it is again on the doll. So like I said before, the boots kind of help with keeping them able to stand on their own. They are still very wobbly, but that is something you could do with the boots with them being so oversized and chunky. Here's what a pair of the wings look like. They are this plastic, very bendable plastic shape that you might be able to cut off just any recycling you have. It's not that stiff, so you don't want something too strong. This would probably be the kind of plastic you'd see on most packaging for like batteries or something like that. And it's smooth on one side because this is the side that would be attached to the doll's back. Remember there is a piece of Velcro on the wings that when you put it to the doll, because she has a piece of Velcro usually on the back of her shirt for the wings, it just kind of Velcros on and sits there. Very easy to lose. I could see how a lot of them were lost. Also, here are the body measurements of the doll. All of the girls have the same body form, so all of these measurements will apply to each of them. Can we save W.I.T.C.H? The answer is maybe. If you've got a Disney Plus profile, and I think even if you don't have a Disney Plus profile, so if you head to the Disney Plus website or in your app, if you go to your profile and go under the help section, you can actually click an option to suggest a item to be added to the Disney Plus catalog. So I highly recommend you go there right now and you type in W.I.T.C.H, and let's see what we can do.